Hey, it's Korinn, 365 Days of Open Heart Living, Day 82, Emotional Maturity. So, when I think of emotional maturity, I think of like a thermostat. It's not that you become mature and you are mature in how you handle all of your emotions. Emotional maturity is more about um, just knowing that there's fluctuation depending on what the situation is, depending on the person involved in the situation, depending on the state that you are in at the time of the occurrence. If you are not feeling good, then, maybe your ability to handle things emotionally mature is lessened. So it's like a thermostat. There's a measurement that kind of it varies. Sometimes our ability to act emotionally mature is high, it's strong, it's solid. Sometimes our ability to act emotionally mature is weak, it's low, it's unstable. And that can depend on multiple factors, as I was just touching upon. So, feeling like you are emotionally mature is it's not a status thing. It's not like some bullshit place of level of achieving how you conduct yourself and how you treat others and whatnot. It's just a personal gauge, your emotional maturity. So when you think about maturity in general, to mature means to grow in development of an attribute, an asset. And with your emotional self, as human beings, we always are going to have room for growth. We're always going to have a higher growth potential. We can never max out on being too mellowed out or too stable, or, there's layers and layers and layers that we can move through in reaching our ability to have emotional stability and in helping ourselves to counter our emotional instability. Because no matter what age you are, there are things that can set you off and cause you to act like a child emotionally, right? This is just life. Some people more than others, you know, and I think having emotional maturity also can come, it can be a help in dealing with people who are not emotionally mature. It hasn't a lot to do with age. It doesn't have a lot to do with age. And that's only because I've seen children who can roll with life and have great curiosity and don't get wrapped up in the kind of chaos of things. Um, they're special little human beings. And I likewise have seen adults who that's how they function is in complete chaos. Um, they get so wrapped up into the sway of their emotion and the mood in the day, and um, that that's causes them angst, and it's an emotional immaturity only because of how they react in it. Being any age and being able to handle your emotions or someone else's emotions with respect, with acceptance, that is a piece of developing emotional maturity. Because I can be in disagreement with somebody and they can be in disagreement with me. And when there is emotional maturity, we can feel how we feel. But that doesn't mean that we need to treat each other with disrespect. It doesn't mean that we need to become enemies. It doesn't mean that we need to use our emotion to manipulate the other to come into the same um, stance of mindset that we each hold. Having emotional maturity allows you to feel and process your emotions while respecting the space for others to also feel and process their emotions as well. Somebody who is emotionally immature, they can tend to have temper tantrums. And a part of the temper tantrum is that they don't have a constructive way of emitting that emotional charge that has built up in them. Their way of emitting it is just in yelling and being manipulative and being argumentative and closing down and giving the cold shoulder. Like, those are things that show up when we are in a state of emotional immaturity. When we are in a state of emotional maturity, we are able to express ourselves, say point blank, this is how I'm feeling, be receptive in receiving what somebody else has to comment back on what they also are observing of the situation or of our behavior, and just keep an open mind of knowing that how you're feeling emotionally right now, there's growth and movement in it. You don't have to stay stuck in feeling emotional turmoil. With emotional maturity, that's the flow, to move in the direction to grow with how you're feeling, whether it feels closed down and restrictive, or whether it feels like, okay, this, I could handle it this way, but I think I need to have a conversation and express how I'm feeling so I can handle it in a better way. It is raining out right now. Okay, sorry about that interruption. I had to come inside. It started raining more than I thought it would. And I'm kind of wondering if there's going to be a rainbow. I don't know. But all right, so emotional maturity. It's just a space. Like, we move in and out of it. Sometimes we handle ourselves emotionally mature. Sometimes we handle ourselves immature, like a toddler throwing a tantrum. Like, it just happens. We all have our days. We all have our thresholds that get pushed, and we all can act like a child, no matter how old you are. If you get triggered by whoever it is, or whatever situation, or time of day, or time of month, or whatever, if you get triggered, you can act like a child and be emotionally immature. What meditation does is it builds that space of inner stability, solidness in your core of um, your wholeness, your mental, emotional, spiritual, physical self, that wholeness that is just cohesive and has energy flowing through all levels of yourself. When you meditate and you enter that space and you drop that coin in the bucket of having a time of meditation, you're building that inner stability, which then definitely helps you to have a greater capacity for emotional maturity in your interactions with other people, even in how you behave just personally as yourself. So, one thing that I did also want to comment on of emotional immaturity, another aspect of it is that people who are underdeveloped emotionally, they can use their emotion as a power play. And what I mean by that is that it it might not even be conscious, it might be unconscious, but it's like you do or say this and they come at you with an emotional response to try to change or manipulate or justify themselves and change or manipulate you. So there's a power play there. Like, you say you want to move, 10 states away, and I say blah blah blah, whatever, that you don't care about me. I'm never gonna, you don't want to see me anymore, you don't want to be a part of my life, whatever it is. Like, there's an emotional play feeding off of what you have communicated, trying to have a resulting effect on it not impacting them in the way that is uncomfortable for them. Manipulation, point blank. Manipulation is a definite expression of a human being who does not have emotional maturity. They are more so, um, yeah, like wrapped up in chaos and drama. And so the waves of life, they react dramatically to them, and they also are impacted dramatically, which is sad for them, right? With emotional maturity, we're able to have more acceptance and flow with the waves of life. And the way that life impacts us, it is not taken in so deeply that we have such a dramatic response to it. We can absorb, like, okay, this change is happening. This person says they want to move away, and I'm, saddened by that, hurt. You know, it's a process, a mental processing. Being able to have some emotional maturity, there's some space between the mind and the emotion. It's not just boom, on fire and exploding. It's like, let me think about this. Let me feel this. Let me respond to this. And that could be unconscious too. But somebody that has a stronger level, or is their thermostat is at a higher level of emotional maturity, they're going to have those cognitive processing steps that just happen naturally, where they are going to have respect for the situation, the person, in digesting what the situation is, and then expressing from their place what needs to be expressed. And then having a conversation, right? Being able to be emotionally mature, you're able to have open conversations where ideals don't always line up, but your heart can always be open in expressing and receiving in those open conversations at that mature, developed level of communicating. One other thing I wanted to share as an example was I once worked with a person who they had been abused in their life, and one of their parents was kind of not the abuser, but was the gateway for the abuse to have occurred. And this individual, um, in in energy sessions with myself, they were able to articulate and recognize that every time they're around that parent, that they like regress and feel like a child, that they act like a child, that they have more temperamental, explosions, that they're more irritable, that they are less able to kind of steady themselves in how they're feeling, and that it was uncomfortable for them because in their normal day-to-day level of functioning, they were a very emotionally mature human being. They were able to have great conversations and deal with dilemmas and challenges, and we're healthy, we're making healthy choices in their life, had healthy relationships. But in being in connection with the parent that was associated with the abuse happening in their life, that regressed them. It brought them into that child like kind of space of not being mature and how they were able to manage their emotions. And that's a really real thing too. And I just want to bring up that point. Again, it's a thermometer. It's not some bullshit level of like, I am so emotionally mature, and, and these people are not emotionally mature. And nah, no, we all have our trigger points. We all can be emotionally immature and emotionally mature. There's levels to it. And through life, hopefully, we get to a place where we have more freedom for ourselves and more openness in conducting ourselves in a more emotionally mature way, because it feels better for us and it feels better for those people we are communicating with as well. So go ahead and close your eyes, taking a nice, deep, relaxing breath. Today in our meditation, we're just going to set the space of feeling the breath, doing the foundational practice of the inner breath, so that we are better able to feel ourselves, so that we are building up that natural effect that meditation has of inner stability, that then just expands out in how we are and how we feel in our lives. Breathing in, breathing out. Feeling the breath as it moves in to your body and as it moves out of your body. Simple yet profound in its effect. And taking this time to feel your breath, your energy is able to be more stable within you. It's able to slow down. It's able to ground into your body and is less all over the place in your mind and in your actions. You are here in presence with your breath. And feeling your breath, you feel your presence. Your presence strengthens and you become more aware of how you are. In that space of awareness, in your presence of feeling your breath, there is also a space created between your internal self and the external world. And that space that is there between your inner self feeling stable and the external world, which may have some instability at certain times, there's a space that's almost like a pause in between what is happening and how it is affecting you. And in that awareness, it starts to become something that you see and then something that you have a choice about. You might see the person that acts as a trigger for your emotional immaturity to rear itself. You may feel that pause of your awareness and your presence of how you are responding in that moment to seeing that person. And in your present awareness, you have a choice in conducting yourself in a way that is a positive growth for yourself, that in a way that expresses there's positive growth happening. As you adjust in that space, and realize that your reason for immature behavior is rooted in the trigger of that person. But that doesn't mean you need to lose yourself in the emotion that is triggered. Take your breath, feel your breath in those moments to create that space. And then choose, how do I want to respond? It is fair at times to say, I feel like I need to remove myself from being here right now and go and create a bigger space away from the trigger. It is fair to be an observer. If your button gets pushed, and then process later of recognizing how far you went emotionally and not being able to control yourself in your outburst. Observe and grow in awareness. Feel your breath in and out. And when you're ready, open your eyes. I had a funny thought at the end. I thought about how we can observe somebody who is acting like a child and operating from a space of being at a level of emotional immaturity in that moment. And in our judgment of being irritated with them or frustrated or like unaccepting of their reactiveness, then there's a little bit of emotional immaturity happening in us too, because we are not allowing that respect for that space of that person just to come undone. We are getting tangled up in the emotion that is pouring out from them in such a way that it's causing us to also have an emotional reaction that doesn't feel good to us, and the response that we might be giving them also probably doesn't feel good. So we are being taken up in that air of emotional immaturity. You know, I don't like to talk politics, but it's an election year. And as an American, there's so much emotional immaturity in our politicians. It is disgusting to me and a bit of an embarrassment, actually, as well. I don't like to say that. I'm proud to be an American. I love our country. I'm very proud of our country. But it's that power play thing, that emotional immaturity. It's just a power battle. And that is what emotional immaturity, it's either one or the other. It's either about power and trying to manipulate, or it's about not being able to maturely express yourself and just blowing up. And we're human beings. We go in both directions. And there's places in between that I haven't touched upon, but those are the two kind of positions that are just on my mind right now, of emotional maturity as power and emotional immaturity as just being a hothead, like blowing up because you can't handle your emotions. The more that you're able to not like handle your emotions in such a way that you are ignoring them, but the more that you're able to process and feel and express yourself emotionally, the more your emotional maturity will develop. So I encourage you to just watch yourself as a human being. See when you're getting triggered by that coworker or your 5-year-old kid who is legitimately maturing in their emotional, development and is having a legit tantrum. Just see how you respond in that. And then be mindful of that space of like not immediately being taken up in the emotion of it, but by just taking a breath, taking a moment, and creating that space to see the external chaos and the external heatedness of the emotion that's kind of flown wild, and your internal space of, do you feel stable to to process this, to handle this, to interact with what is happening? Or do you need some time to compose yourself and come into a place of accepting, like, yep, my 5-year-old hasn't napped for, 2 months and has hopped up on sugar and goes to bed at 11 o'clock because can't get him to bed sooner than that, and whatever the like combination is causing that childlike tantrum in them, maybe you need some space. So again, emotional maturity is having a space where there is respect, where there's composure, and where there is acceptance. respecting what somebody else's stance might be or emotional temperature in the moment, having composure for feeling that space of your inner self in between, separate from, sorry, my words got jumbled, that inner space separate from the outer experience of life, being aware in that space allows you to collect composure. And then acceptance is just a knowing that sometimes you're going to be low on the emotional maturity thermometer, and sometimes you're going to be high. Same with other people. Sometimes they have a low capacity to act emotionally mature, and that is where they are. And sometimes they have a higher capacity. And so we get and we give at different levels of our emotional self, dependent on each and every moment. Come back to this meditation to both strengthen your inner stability, to feel that you are operating or can operate from a space of emotional maturity, in that acceptance, in that respect, and in that composure. But also come to this meditation when you are in a place of emotional immaturity, where you need to feel and you need to center and you need to just accept. Sometimes I act like a child, because I do. Sometimes I throw tantrums, because I do. Because we all do. We're human. Very much so. So keep living your heart, you beautiful human.